As mentioned, my name is Ylva Huber. I'm working at the Austrian Research Promotion Agency, and you may already have guessed, unfortunately, I will not present exciting scientific results like we've heard just immediately before. What I would like to present to you briefly is the services, the hands-on services, and also the information provided by a huge network of scientific support centers. And that's called EURAXESS. Maybe a first quick survey out of curiosity. Who of you has already heard of EURAXESS before this conference? Could you give me a hand sign? Okay, that means that hopefully the information will be new for you. So, EURAXESS, what is it? It is, on one hand, a pan-European initiative. It's been around since more than 15 years now. It's carried by more than 40 countries, so it's not only Europe, it's beyond Europe, and it operates really on two levels. On one hand, researchers get concrete support in questions of mobility, for example. Many researchers move within Europe or may aim to come to Europe. They may also aim to leave Europe again. All this comes with lots of practical questions, starting with residence permits, accommodation, social security, taxation questions. These are very concrete issues, and the idea of EURAXESS as such is to support the so-called European research area, the idea that researchers can move freely within Europe and really have as little practical borders in carrying out scientific research, exciting research as possible. That's one level. The second level is maybe a more political one. It is also about trying to support the best possible working conditions for scientists in Europe, but also beyond the world, in the world. And that's, you may have heard of things like the Charter and Code, the innovative doctoral training principles. These are things that have been put in place, and I think they are increasingly, of course, reflected and implemented by research organizations to try to make the education and also the work of scientists as meaningful and as rewarding as possible. EURAXESS is co-funded by the European Commission. The services as such are free. Maybe to a certain level, if you have very specific training, you may have to pay a little fee, but the general services are free. And what I would like to show you here in particular, I hope I'm standing in the right place. Can you hear me? I'm not sure. Okay. Is a portal, the portal for EURAXESS, because this has been relaunched recently, and I just tried it also. It really works fine on the mobile phone, so it should be easy for you to have a look at it in any, let's say, IT context. Let me show you the main, let's say, areas of services that EURAXESS targets, so that you get an idea of the flavor of the focus of the initiative. One important feature, of course, is the question of jobs. Where can I find a research position? Where can I make my own skills and expertise known? And where can I maybe also get funding? We just heard the question for 10 million euro funding for a future European project. That would probably not be found on EURAXESS, but you would find several sources of European funding also there. So there is a large database for jobs and funding. Right now, there are around 50,000 positions on this database. Over the years, it's hundreds of thousands of jobs. And actually, what is happening is that European research organizations are, let's say, gently nudged to put all their research positions on this database, because the underlying idea is this open and merit-based recruitment, the fact that you really advertise internationally all research positions, and EURAXESS is one of the key vehicles to do that. So that's also very easy to search, and you can simply log in, you can sign up without any costs, and just look what do you find. You can filter it across countries according to sectors. And here I should probably also say this is, of course, it is an initiative that is very much targeted for researchers, but it has opened up in recent years. So it is also targeting employers of all other sectors. You can find business partners here. The idea is really to support researchers, for example, also if they want to look for job opportunities outside of the academic realm. So you have a broader spectrum here. Funding as well, I think this is starting to getting filled up. Of course, there's a very good website of the European Commission on the European funding possibilities, but this portal will also give you access to the national Euraccess service centers. And if I take the example of Austria, I will show it a bit later, the Austrian Research Promotion Agency is one of the bridgehead organizations, and together with 20 other organizations or so, they really form the support network in Austria. And they have also their fundings and grants, and we have a huge database where you can look for that. And this is possible through this portal for all European countries. Another rather new feature is partnering. This is really, if you're looking for example, a collaborator in a scientific project, you will have your own channels, of course, your own personal network. But often you will need maybe researchers or entrepreneurs from another sector and things or contacts that you may not have immediately in your vicinity. And that could be one of the tools that could help you. Information and assistance is maybe one of the key issues. I already brought up the many questions that revolve around being mobile in Europe, coming to Europe, being in Europe, leaving Europe. But this is not only about mobile researchers. An important and additional feature is that Euraccess wants to support career development. So it's not just for you, Euraccess is not just for you if you plan to go somewhere else, but also if you have questions how you can further develop your career, how you can obtain new skills. I will show you some details on this in a minute. And last but certainly not least, as I mentioned, Euraccess is, of course, the idea is to support researchers working in Europe, but it is a global initiative in the sense that there is also Euraccess worldwide. We have links in all continents, all other parts of the world. So there is support for researchers thinking of going to Europe, but of course this is a two-way issue. So also if you want information about positions in India and so on, Euraccess is, or China, Euraccess is a very helpful tool for that. We have contact persons in all these areas. Let's have a closer look at the database. So here you can see it's a very simple layout. You can filter according to different sectors and countries, as mentioned. Yes, and there's also links to different training tools. This is in a starting phase, one has to say. There are going to be much more tools for career development that are going to be put in this database. Yes, working environment. Now, this is maybe another question. Who has heard already of the Award for Human Excellence in Research, this HR award symbol? Okay, maybe you will be looking out for it in the future, because this is a logo or a symbol that is given to those host institutions who have really signed the so-called Charter and Code, and the Charter and Code sets certain standards. It says we really want our researchers to be openly and transparently recruited, to have further development in their career, that they follow certain standards, that there is openness towards other sectors and so on. Quite an interesting paper. This has been signed by many hundred institutions already. But if you see this logo, and this is the case for about more than 300 institutions, research institutions in Europe by now, that means that these institutions have made an action plan to really make concrete steps to improve the career development for their researchers and the training that they receive. So we think that this is going to stay, and it's actually this strategy, human resources strategy, as it is called at the political level, is going to be further reinforced. A very important issue also is that Euraccess, the portal, is a node for the Science for Refugees initiative. So there are many, this is a collection of initiatives that support refugees to embark on, continue their scientific career in Europe, to get additional training. So you get an overview on all the initiatives that are in place, and this is of course continuously updated. Yes, career development, I've given you already the main flavor and mindset, you can say, of Euraccess and the European policy in this respect. What is new is that Euraccess will really develop also so-called career development centers. So it will not only be anymore about supporting practical questions in mobility or mobility-related issues as mentioned, but really there will be a stronger development in these career development aspects. Partnering, this is just also to show you how does it look. If you can look for scientific or maybe business-related collaboration partners, this is still under development, but we think this is a valuable add-on for this portal, albeit I don't think it's the main focus of this portal. Now, this is link information and assistance. This is the website when you're really looking for concrete persons to talk with, because that's in the end what it boils down to. So it's not just a web platform. You have the access to hundreds of persons across Europe and also the world that really help you with concrete questions in either mobility or career development. And this is a European portal. But here you see an example now for the Austrian national portal. So they have somehow the same look and feel, but then it goes down into the specifics of each country. And for example, in Austria, the Austrian Agency for International Cooperation in Education and Research, they have also standard this conference. They focus very much on questions of legal issues, work permits, but also accommodation. And there are lots of other questions. If you bring your family and so on, how will you find a kindergarten, all of that. So this is their focus, and we are working closely together with them at the Austrian Research Promotion Agency. The questions we receive usually revolve around taxation questions or social security. I think one thing I overstepped that I would like to mention, namely Resaver. Again, a question for you. Who has heard of Resaver, the European Pension Fund? Okay, so also this can do with a lot more, let's say, dissemination. The idea of Resaver is, again, to support mobile researchers, because you may have heard of the problem, you may not think of it yet, but if you move from one country to the next, there's often a problem. How does your pension plan fit together? Do you have to start from scratch again in the next country? How can you carry over benefits? And the idea of Resaver is to have an occupational pension column that really follows you wherever you go. And that has been initiated some years ago, and it will now soon pay out the first benefits. I think it's quite a long road, because institutions have to adapt their pension plans, but we see a mounting interest in this, because this should also help to remove one of the barriers in moving really from one country to the other in Europe. So, but now I get back to my final slide. So this is again showing that Euraccess is oriented globally. It is trying to implement reduced barriers for researchers in Europe and learning, of course, also from models outside. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take any questions.